Well, this time I'm going to begin working on this computer control console thing. It's like uh, I don't know, like a mission control type of thing for all the big satellite dishes that are on the planet. Since he's a lighthouse keeper or a signal keeper, he deals with all these big satellite dishes on the planet. Anyway, he's going to need some sort of control area, and that's what this is. And I have no idea when I'm beginning here what this is going to be or look like. And so, what I've done in terms of reference images is just brought up a bunch of submarine interior images of old American and Russian submarines and some new ones as well, just so I can get a sense or have a visual with a bunch of these control panels with knobs and switches and screens and all kinds of things. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to block out the different screens and panels that I'm going to need here. I'm thinking that these four screens in the middle have those kind of handles on them that you can put them into the slot and then screw them in, So I've got those handles there. And those handles can be used on other parts as well, I think, but I'm really going to try and fill the panels as much as I can. So as I'm going, I'm also putting on some materials just because I need a visual here. I need to kind of begin to see or get a sense of what this is going to look like. So I've got just a basic metal-ish material on it. It's going to change over time, of course. So now I'm going to use a Boolean modifier to create the keyboard, and the keyboard is dropped down into the console counter. This is the way it seems to be in submarines, and then they use this one of those little rollerball mouse type things there. And once again, it's been really helpful to have created the character first and then be able to bring him in and just match up the scale and proportion of whatever it is he's going to be using to the character, chairs or tables or these computer consoles. And as I began working on this, I continued to work on it still angled. In other words, all these panels are on the console and are kind of angled in strange ways. So it's kind of hard to rotate and tilt these things to get them in place. There's a lot of tweaking to try and get them all lined up. And it isn't until I do this for a while and get kind of frustrated before I begin saying, you know what I could do? I could actually just take one of these panels, duplicate it, take it into the center of the grid, and then model it in the global XY axis, and it'd be a whole lot easier to align things. But before I get to that, I work on the chair here. And this is just a very standard office work chair. I wasn't trying to do anything spectacular or real, sci-fi. This is very just standard issue type office chair. I like the sense that this is a sci-fi world, but that there are these very normal standard things in it. I don't know why, but that just kind of appeals to me. So this is a very standard office chair that, once again, I've brought up some images and are just trying to get this to look similar to those. And I'm using just all the basic Blender modeling tools, polygon modeling, using the path tool, subdivision surfaces. Just it's all very standard as well, making the standard issue chair here. But just like I'm modeling this chair in the center of the grid, and it just makes things so much easier in terms of mirroring and spinning things around like the legs of the chairs and these little casters. It just makes life so much easier when you do the modeling in the center of the grid. And as I said, I began to finally figure this out with that control console. I began taking each panel that I'm going to work on off of it, bringing it into the center of the grid, realigning it so it's aligned to the global axis, and then doing all the adding of the little knobs and the dials and aligning everything. It just worked so much better, and I know better. I know that, but sometimes you just got to kind of go through the process and figure out what works and what doesn't. And I put it back at the console with the character there to make sure it's the proper size before I begin putting the materials on it. But I go through the process of UV mapping the seat and the back and giving it a checker material so that it has a bit of texture. And then I get back to actually modeling and adding greebles and things to each of the panels. And you can see here I've duplicated this, brought it into the center of the grid, lined it up, and now this is so much easier to place things on and create panels and buttons and lights and things like that. It's just so much easier in the center of the grid. And then I just snap the cursor to the panel that I duplicated, and then snap the new object to the 3D cursor. And as I was going, I figured this has to have some sort of power to it to run all of this, and maybe it has to have some sort of connection to the things that it's controlling. So I figured it needs some sort of cables coming in and out of it. I thought about cables coming out of the top and maybe connections from one of these panel units to another. I don't know. Once again, this is me just trying to figure it out on the fly as I'm modeling here in Blender. If you have any ideas for these things, please let me know, because I'm not real sure about those cables and things. As I said, if you have any ideas, let me know. But here I'm just looking at an image of a panel in a submarine and trying to replicate that, just without a whole lot of detail, just enough detail to make it kind of feel like there's something there. And maybe a little red button and a knob or two and maybe some switches. So just things so when they're in the background, behind the characters, maybe a little out of focus, it just feels like there's something there, that the world is lived in and has things that have, I don't know, functionality to them. And as I said, once I get it done, I then bring it back into place and then move on to the next thing. And the difficult part is to try and, I don't know, use similar pieces without each panel looking the same, but still having them look like they were built and installed by the same people, by the same company. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is just make it so really it doesn't draw attention to itself. So it doesn't draw attention to itself for being way too realistic or too detailed, and it doesn't draw attention to itself for not being detailed enough. And you really will never know until you begin to actually set up a shot and render it, how it's going to do. And now, frankly, I'm getting kind of tired, so I'm beginning to duplicate things off of the kitchen and bring them over here and try and put them on panels. I'm beginning to cannibalize from one panel to another, just trying to fill it out, because it just gets old creating all these things again and again. So I'm just looking for ways to cannibalize now. Maybe I'll grab a panel from here, a knob from there, a keypad from here. So, and just move it around, trying not to make it look too much like I'm just duplicating things. I'm just watching myself do this, and I remember just getting frustrated saying, damn it, I just want to be done with this. That's what's going on, and I think by the end I'm just completely phoning it in. So this one over here, I remember I just grabbed 3 knobs from other panels, and then I'm bringing them over here and just putting them on this panel and trying to arrange them in a way that doesn't look too dorky, that it just, it kind of looks okay. And then finally, this very last panel, I just said, oh, forget it. I'm just going to grab handles and put them on, and this is just going to be an empty panel. And so that is pretty much the completed control panel for the habitat. That's how he's going to control the satellites. And then I thought, oh, what if, let me test putting things on the screens here. So I went out to nasa.gov and grabbed some images. And I thought I'd try and UV map these screens and bring them in. And I'm trying to find an image that I can just kind of stretch the UVs around and make it look okay, just to see. These aren't going to be permanent because I'm probably going to have to create my own, but I kind of wanted to see how they would look. Oh, I grabbed a couple of images from The Martian, from the movie. Somebody had these out online, so I just grabbed them and brought them in just so I could kind of see how it's going to look. So ultimately, that's not bad. Ultimately, I think that's going to work. That will be the space guy's control panel that he'll use to control all the systems there on his planet. All right, well, thank you for watching. I'll keep working on the habitat, and I will see you soon with another video.